Boomer Sooner, baby! The Oklahoma Sooners just landed the 4-star defensive lineman, a top 100 player out of Melissa, Texas. Yes, you heard me right. Oklahoma landed a top 100 player that is a defensive lineman. And Oklahoma is rolling on the recruiting trail. They're shoring up this defensive line heading into the SEC. And this is exciting because for so many years, this has been the problem. This has been the area of this team that you look at and say it's not the strong point here. But over the past week, you have seen crystal balls and future casts and predictions from On3 completely flow in favor of Oklahoma for the 4-star player Nigel Smith. And here's the deal. At 6'5", 260 pounds, Nigel Smith was a prospect that was coveted across the nation. And you saw that by his offer sheet because he didn't have just SEC offers. He had Ohio State, Penn State. Shoot, he even had Rutgers in his top schools list. Explain that one to me. But Oklahoma goes out here and they beat out the godfather of defensive line recruiting. They go out here, they beat out Penn State, who, yes, actually took one of Oklahoma's defensive line prospects they were originally looking at. Ultimately, Oklahoma ended up kind of backing off T.A. Cunningham, but Penn State went out there and landed him. They landed a prospect that just not Oklahoma wanted, a bunch of people wanted. But Nigel Smith was a guy that, let's be honest, this has really been a drama-free recruitment for Oklahoma. Normally, you see OU have to go out here and fight and scrap, and fans were waiting till the last minute to see, hey, can Oklahoma and Todd Bates pull this off? Now, normally that's going to be a 5-star defensive lineman recruitment, but Nigel Smith is 5-star talent. Now, people might be asking themselves, well, hey, will Nigel Smith still be taking that Texas official visit? Probably not. He probably will not be going to the University of Texas anymore. But Oklahoma goes out there, you beat Texas, you beat A&M for a prospect in their state, a prospect that realistically both should land. And, hey, Oklahoma goes out there and lands a defensive line prospect over A&M. That should be a win in our books. Like I said, you go out there, you beat the godfather of defensive line recruiting in Ohio State, you beat Penn State, you should obviously beat Rutgers. And Nigel Smith is going to be a guy that potentially could come off the edge for you and be pretty explosive. So it'll be interesting to see how Todd Bates and Miguel Chavis actually decide that they want to use Nigel Smith in this defense with Jaden Jackson and David Stone coming in and potentially maybe even a Danny Okoye or a Williams Winery. Yes, you heard that right. I'm still on the train to think that both of those prospects landed Oklahoma. But where does this leave Oklahoma? With the commitment of Nigel Smith, it gives Oklahoma a 268.12 composite score, meaning Oklahoma now jumps Michigan to number 8 in the recruiting rankings, right behind Tennessee, who's at 268.82. Yes, you're less than a point away from getting into the top 6, and you're less than 2 points away from jumping Florida State or from jumping Texas A&M to be in the official top 5, where I think we all expect Oklahoma's probably going to end this class. And you might be saying, well, how's that? I look at what's left on Oklahoma's board, and I think Oklahoma is probably going to end up somewhere between 280 and 300. And here's why I say that. I still think you get Grant Bricks, the 4-star offensive tackle out of Iowa. You still, I think, can try to get Danny Okoye. We've talked about this one. I think Oklahoma's in the driver's seat here, but Tennessee is going to make their push, and Josh Heupel is going to do everything he can to land Danny Okoye. Not to mention, Danny Okoye likes Tennessee. So although the predictions have been coming in for Oklahoma, we really need to see where does this top 3 land, and exactly does he end up taking more visits to Knoxville? Because Tennessee's going to try to get him, if not already trying to get him out there for a visit. Not to mention, I think Oklahoma lands Michael Boganowski and Daniel Akinkumi. Now, Daniel Akinkumi is the 3-star offensive lineman out of London, England. Remember, guys, we've had him here on the podcast. We've talked to him. I really like where Oklahoma's at in this recruitment. And I think Daniel Akinkumi is a guy that can hit potential 4-star status. So if you add up those guys today where Oklahoma's at, it would give them a 280.83 composite or 280.45 composite score, which, looking at the rankings, although some of these schools like Florida, obviously Bama, Ohio State, they're probably going to take more guys. So if you're Oklahoma, you're probably not jumping any of those 4 schools. But you could potentially supplant yourself over A&M, over Florida State. This is just a really hard year in recruiting to try to get to that top 5 class. However, I will say this. If you land Williams Nwaneri, and remember, I'm still under the impression you're going to get 2 5-star defensive linemen in this class over just one, whether that's Williams Nwaneri or Dominic McKinley. I think Oklahoma can do either one of the two, especially if you get them on campus. But you add Williams Nwaneri to this class, the number 1 overall player according to On3, and I think the number 3 overall player in the 247 composite rankings, that would get Oklahoma up to a 289.22 composite score. Now, that's obviously accounting for no moves in the recruiting rankings for any other guys in this class. You expect Andy Bass, Joshua Isosa, and many of other guys to continue to surge in these recruiting rankings. And you would expect Oklahoma's probably not going to end up with as many 3 stars as they have now. You would expect Oklahoma is going to end up with more 4 stars over the 3 stars. So it's something we have to watch. And then not to mention, guys, Oklahoma's still in it for Jordan Seaton, Devin Jordan, and Terry Bussey. Yes, Terry Bussey, the 5-star athlete out of Timpson, Texas. So Oklahoma still has opportunity to go in here and really shore up this class and make it one of the not only best defensive line classes in the country, but one of the best classes overall. It's something we're going to have to keep our eye on, something that we're going to have to watch, because Brent Venables and this staff, they are absolutely trying to turn this roster over, prepared for the SEC, and you've seen it on the field. It's been a much better product through one game that we've seen on the field from the defense, and just the way that they have athletes, right? They're out there flying around the ball. They're out there creating pressure at the quarterback, regardless whether they're getting sacks or not. So you really like where the staff is taking the direction of this team, and you would expect by season 2025, Oklahoma is going to be contending for a national championship. But guys, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what y'all's thoughts are around the 4-star defensive lineman Nigel Smith committing to the University of Oklahoma. Oklahoma wins one over A&M. They win one over Ohio State. I think if Oklahoma can continue to put out a really good defensive product, potentially try to sway a guy like Dominic McKinley or even Williams Nwaneri over to you. But guys, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and jump down in the comments below and let me know what y'all's thoughts are.